Russia unleashed its latest aerial onslaught of the war on the capital Kyiv. Over 800 drones and a flock of other projectiles rained down across Ukraine, igniting fires in central Kyiv and beyond. In an ominous first, a government building, the Cabinet of Ministers, was struck, set ablaze with smoke rising from the Pecherskyi district. According to Reuters, the main government building in Kyiv's historic Pecherskyi district was set ablaze, a first during the war. Ukraine's Air Force intercepted most of the munitions thrown at the capital, downing 751 drones and 4 missiles, but the damage was done. The most visible impact of which was the hit on the key government building. It only takes a few projectiles to get through, and that, of course, is what people will focus on, not the numerous ones that were successfully intercepted. Tragically, at least 4 people died, including an infant and its mother, which is absolutely heartbreaking, and dozens were injured. This was reported in Reuters, The Guardian, Financial Times, and others. Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko is a rising star of Ukrainian politics. Picture the defiance as she was filmed stepping gingerly over broken glass and through the wrecked and charred corridors of a damaged government office. That is, the office of her and her colleagues. She said, "I urge the world to turn outrage over Russian crimes into concrete support for Ukraine." That voice from within the rubble cuts through all of these sirens and sound bites. It was genuinely moving. That was reported in Reuters. But this wasn't just another attack. It was a brutal statement. Russia doesn't want to just destroy, it is targeting the government itself. And that is a highly calculating move. The attempt to erase Ukraine's government and its infrastructure is part of a broader desire to erase Ukraine itself. It isn't an action that is content merely to destabilize. It wants to undermine the very infrastructure of Ukrainian democracy. Damage, devastation, and a peace that never was. Beyond government facades lies the human toll. Homes shattered, a kindergarten in Zaporizhia, a horse club in Fastiv, fires, rubble, and fear. Everywhere, civilians caught in Russia's deliberate escalation. The denunciations on social media were sharp and succinct. Ukraine's MFA put it plainly. It's Russia's deliberate strikes make one thing clear. Russia has no interest in peace. That was posted on X, formerly Twitter. Well, that's at the very heart of it. Any illusions of diplomacy melt away amidst this violence. This isn't about war, it's about terror as state policy. And then apparently Trump says, get serious. But are his words worth anything at all? Right on cue enters Donald Trump, a figure whose words still echo across diplomatic channels as if they carry some weight, though were rarely accompanied by action unless the task is to bomb Iran and threaten domestic states. Within hours, he signalled a tougher posture, promising a second stage of sanctions on Russia targeting oil importers. That's reported in the New York Post. He also rallied European leaders to come to Washington to discuss the war and said he believed the war would soon be resolved. Well, he's said that many times before, and we have to ask, well, if this is the second major package of pressure he's introduced on Russia, well, what exactly was the first? My cynical take from this is that such a move would delay Europe acting, not enhance it. And that perhaps is the whole point: deflection and distraction. Yet beneath the rhetoric lies a deep well of skepticism. An op-ed in the Washington Post today underscores the hollowness. Trump's public outbursts aim to appear strong, but without any real policy shifts, they're ineffective against dictators who are indifferent to American public opinion. Another opinion piece adds that Putin used prior high-profile meetings like that in Alaska to bolster his image, to delay sanctions and continue military escalation. It concludes Western strategy must enforce coordinated sanctions, redirect frozen assets, and bolster Ukraine's defenses, because anything less would embolden aggression. In fact, is emboldening and enabling Russian aggression right now. That was published in the CT Insider. One diplomat's candid assessment: the attack is not a signal that Russia wants to diplomatically end this war. That was reproduced in the Kyiv Post. Peace seems not beyond Moscow's radar. Only civilian buildings, energy infrastructure, and government offices are the things that are on his radar. Crossing a line, or just another step in the same marching pattern. A government building struck for the first time, the very first time, in Kyiv. Is this crossing a line? Well, yes and no. Government buildings have been hit before. In fact, the war opened with a massive strike on a government building in Kharkiv. Earlier this year, Kyiv endured its deadliest missile and drone attack in April. 13 were killed, including apartments hit and public buildings also, and shockwaves echoed through the capital, less so through the Western media that has become jaded by the relentless onslaught. But to strike the structure of governance itself, the cabinet building is a highly symbolic escalation, and that building is recognizable to all Ukrainians. The smoke rising in the Pecherskyi district reflects more than the daily barrage of drones and missiles. It's a strike at Ukraine's center of political unity. Still, Russia's pattern has been consistent throughout: escalate, intimidate, consolidate, control, and never stop repeating that pattern. We've seen it again on September the 7th, 2025, the largest aerial strike yet. A government building in flames, families shattered, and peace once again shown to be an illusion. Hopes for peace, an illusion. The message is grim. Russia not only rejects peace, it weaponizes governance itself. Ukraine's plea for action echoes not only in rubble and the video addresses that people are making and the sense of moral urgency in their voices and their tone. No, moral urgency no longer influences Western policy, if indeed it ever did. As for the US, Trump's pivots and threats may sound firm with all the bluster of his person and the stolen authority of his office of state, but after years of broken promises and shifting rhetoric, they risk being just more empty echoes, a Timu version of a leader rather than the thunder that is needed to genuinely deter a tyrant.